I gotta come in. I gotta come in.
I wasn't able to reach around.
So technically, yes. Now, I hate that for a big,
Yeah.
you know.
I'll tell you, I already noticed on the state.
Okay.
That's actually an annual month.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they do. It's just that the decimal points move way over this way.
I think I'll check him to see.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to put. But, I'll check and see if we can roll that back.
Yeah, he'll throw that back.
I'll ask.
You'll ask. Okay.
I'll ask.
Let's do.
Was a concern for Kay was the fact that it was the letter was submitted in June.
Yeah.
Paul, you waiting on anybody else?
I have not heard anything from Kelly.
No?
I haven't, no.
No? Okay. Well, it being noon, I guess I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call sheet is going around. Well, if you haven't signed it yet, please do. Next is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve. the agenda.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Okay, motion approved. Next up is citizen comments. Do we have anyone who wants to make a comment today?
All chair. She could sit in the balcony. That's what those chairs look like.
Anybody out there need to make a comment? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we'll move right along then.
What about?
Next up is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of November 18th. Wow, it's been a long time. So has everyone had a chance to look at those? If that's what's attached to the back here.
Let's go. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion been made to approve. Second. We got a second. All in favor? And it passes. Brings us to managers' reports.
Should be a hard copy in your stack of stuff there. Like you said, it has been a bit since we've been here. Try to just limit it somewhat to December versus going all the way back. So what you see is that we ended the year with some entertaining events and entertaining, not to us, but to others maybe. We did get to have our regular, we had a staff recognition or staff Christmas, which was nice of the city that does for all the city employees, which we were able to give a few of us were able to attend. And it's great for all the employees. But then there's also our annual Christmas brunch that we do here at the airport. We had a good attendance and it was spread out across the morning, and got to see some new faces that we haven't seen before. So that was nice. We always want that to get bigger and bigger every year. So we'll continue that. And then from there, things kind of went a little downhill. If you're reading the report ahead of me. The week before Christmas, we had a gentleman that had rented a truck from Enterprise. We didn't know about that till after he went through the fence, but he decided that for some reason, haven't quite figured out. I mean, I've heard different excuses and things like that, but he drove through the fence on Airport Road. And instead of going back out, just turning around and going back out the hole he made, he decided he needed to just continue driving and make his own another hole to get back up onto Airport Road. So he didn't make it far down Airport Road before he ended up getting towed off because of the damage he did to the vehicle that he had rented from Enterprise, our tenant, one of our tenants. So we'll see if anything comes about from it. I know we still haven't prepared everything just of yet, but we'll be getting that taken care of. But it's a it's a little over 100 linear feet of fencing that's been destroyed through post and wire and things of that nature. That'll be repaired.
It's
It is.
insurance coverage.
Well, we'll be working, our insurance company will be working with Enterprise's insurance company to discuss that. We'll see how it goes. I've told my guys to fix it.
You're keeping out here safe.
Yes, absolutely. Well, after that, the following week of Christmas, our HVAC unit finally gave up the ghost. It'd been worked on the AC side throughout sometimes during the summer, but this time they got the heat side went out. So we were without heat. Those of you that have been able to stop by that week and beyond, you know that it was a bit chilly in here for a while. Our employees toughed it out and worked with space heaters and different things of that nature to make it all happen. But because of the parts that were going to be required, they were going to have to be special ordered. There was no good guarantees on it and things of that nature. And the fact that we'd also had repair work done on the AC side, it just made more sense. And the city was nice enough and worked with us to be able to work with make the logical choice of a new unit. You wouldn't think a 12-year-old unit would be that bad, but everybody keeps telling me now it's, once the warranty's out, it's almost like a timer.
Yeah.
It's been set off. And so usually I think they got like a 10-year warranty. So they say we were lucky we got 2 more years out of it. They're built disposable now, I guess. But now, as you can tell, we have heat in the terminal building, finally. And it was not related to it. It just happened to be about the same time. There was a leak upstairs in a hot water unit upstairs that what they call a pop-off valve, releasing some pressure, did its job. It released pressure. So in turn, that sprayed quite a few gallons of water, not gas, but water on upstairs, which it found a leak. It found a hole, which maybe saved Hawkins a lot of money and time because it stayed primarily in one particular location upstairs until it found a hole, and then it came down here. It found a small pinhole, actually about the size of a pencil, came through and flooded the ceiling and destroyed the ceiling tiles and landed on our furniture in the lobby. And that's what our staff came to on December 26th. They came into work after our one day off. One day we closed the terminal building. And that'll teach us not ever to close the terminal building. I did it. Because apparently it happened over Christmas Day. Since nobody was here, that makes sense. And with that, we had a company come out, dry things upstairs, dry things downstairs. We've replaced some ceiling tiles. There's still a few things have to be done. You'll see that there's new furniture out there because there was some of the furniture we couldn't save some of it, so we just went ahead and we're replacing it, and it ended up in a dumpster. So maybe something, at least one nice thing's coming out of it is that we're getting some updated furniture in there. But with that, we had to dry that out for the week, and upstairs has been dried out, and the repair was done to the hot water heater up there to get that. So hopefully something like that won't happen again. The other thing that was happening that we didn't realize at the same time, we had another leak going on that Bedford County Utilities told us about after we put about 40,000 gallons of water to the ditch down by the feed store. They finally informed us that we had a leak in a backflow preventer that's down there. And so we were able just to cut it off because it's going to end up being replaced. Now, Bedford County Utilities tried to get us to fix it, but I've argued on that one. And because as part of our water project that Matt will probably touch on here in a little while, during construction updates, we are going to be replacing that when all that system gets done. So there's no reason to spend $1,200 to $1,500 to fix it, turn around and pull it out 30 days or less, hopefully, Matt, later. We'll see how. So we still have that is turned off. trying to remember all the other fun things that we had too. But that's the gist of it. You know, we can definitely say that we are looking forward to 2025 because the way 24 wrapped up, but everything seems to be back in motion moving forwards. The staff was, like I said, is very excited that we actually have heat.
No issues in the big freeze here the last week?
No, everything seemed to go well. There was one at the EA hangar had one, they had some water dripping, but it wasn't not enough. And so there was one part we had to do a fix on an outside pipe. But since then, we've been able to get that taken care of. And it wasn't like it was on a service line. It was on an exit line. So it's not that that's been taken care of as far as we know. There's some numbers there across for as far as fuel flow. As you can see from December last year, our numbers, December, part of that's the season, some of that's MTSU wrapping up, other thing, people just get caught up in being busy at the end of the year and don't really fly as much with the holidays. So the fuels drop off, and it dropped off again this December as well. I went ahead and gave you some different operations numbers. Instead of giving you a monthly, I went ahead and gave you so you can see 2 calendar years. I know I usually provide some FY years, but there's calendar years to compare, and we're pretty close. But you can see a couple of differences there with the a drop in the jet, drop in the multi. Surprisingly, how helicopters pretty much stay almost equal, which is unusual. Don't really have a good reason for those 2 changes in that. I can tell you that our base jets this year were not as busy as they have been in the past. Don't have a reason for that either. That's on their own business as far as that's concerned. I don't know what their business entails for them to travel, but I do know that they were not used as much. At least one of them in particular was not used as much as it has been in the past. Maybe that has something to do with some of the jet operations. I don't know. But our fuel purchases still have been, it's been similar. So that didn't. So at least those that are using us are acquiring fuel, and that's we're not just a stop off for something else. Moving on over to the services, you'll see that the hangar rent looks a little low. That's mainly because of the time of the year. Again, a lot of people pay on an annual basis, and so December you don't get nearly. And as we've reported before, we don't really just divide it out just because we actually show what's come in. And so when people are not paying at the end of the year because they paid either on an annual basis or their quarters at the end of a quarter, 2-week drops. So that looks a little different on that part of it. Moving on to the maintenance side of things. Again, like I've joked before, the grounding cable, I can almost just leave it as a standard item. Our guys are trying all kinds of different things to work with those that are regular users to see if we can keep it. They're doing some robust work on the reels themselves, trying to see what we can do to keep it going and work on that. Hopefully we'll figure out something. But our guys are on the constant. That's especially on the Monday morning after the weekends where it's been used quite a bit on the weekends. We'll get it figured out somehow and beaten somehow. We won't let it beat us. The also you can see on the jet tank our bottom load, or what we call our single point connection, has been replaced. The hose has been replaced. That is something that's works great for us. We'll be training MTSU on that for their trucks as well, because where it allows us to do a bottom load or connect a single point to the avgas truck and the jet truck, both 2 separate ones, which allows for safety for our employees so they're not standing up on top of the trucks, but also it's quicker and they can connect in one point down at the bottom instead of having to actually physically hold a hose. And that's what's been done, and that's what MTSU is used to, that they literally are holding the hose over the top of a tank of the truck and watching it go in like you would an airplane wing. We'll be training them on how to connect at the bottom, and so that that'll help speed up the process, but also make things safer. Moving on down through, some of this just standard, I don't want to just read these to you, but some of the standard type things that happen at the end of the year. Believe it or not, we still in December did some mowing here. There's just some detailed little small stuff, but crazy Tennessee weather does that to you. And so our guys did a last little bit of mowing. But those are all the other things that our guys have really been focusing on is not only doing the end of the year wrap up for the equipment that they've been using, but also getting stuff ready. Like we ended up using in January, the trucks and the plows, snow plows. Our runway was open and stayed open the whole time compared to others, and was usable because of the plows and other things like that. We haven't got any calls from the guys down in Florida to use our equipment. Not that I would share, but we were better off than Panama City and Pensacola and others. Other things that were standard is I did happen to throw, this is for Brian, that the photo down here on the bottom.
Like that.
When the coach came through just to talk to a few people. So I have some other photos of the coach coming through the lobby and stuff too, but I'll let you imagine what that color.
That was for Ginger.
What that color might stand for.
I've had to put up with Brian Dickey this week. Ohio State.
I know that some detailed financial reports came through to you guys. Is there anything that I can touch on, address? You'll see that the numbers came through where we are down just a little bit on our forecasted fuel sales. But also you can see a lot of our other expenses are down as well, as far as when you go to being halfway through your budget cycle. Our percentages look well, except with our insurance. Some of that comes with, having to pay some things up front. Is there anything that I can touch on or address, or anything that popped out to you guys on the financial side of things? Okay.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
Questions for me?
Okay. Yes, I will entertain a motion to accept those reports. So moved. All right. Motion and second, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. Now on to old business. It seems like 100 years ago, but I remember last week we talked about the MTSU lease amendment. So here we are.
You will find that you have a printout of the amendments that came through, and I believe that was sent out to you sooner, so that you might have had a chance to read through a lot of that. But we have, of course, Ginger's here, and MTSU's legal representation is here as well to be able to answer any and all questions.
Just to remind you, Mr. Chairman, if you don't,
Yes,
you want me to
please.
go ahead? Just to remind you all, part of the original lease was that MTSU may want approximately 4.8 acres, additional acres. You'll recall in the original lease, it was more of an L shape. We came back, I don't know how many months now, Jeff, it's been a while, several months ago, and the MTSU brought to the city that they probably want to change that shape and go straight back instead of having an L. Most of the folks that we talked at the city seemed very amenable to that. That actually gives the city property more road frontage property. So this amendment is to take in that 4.8 acre option that they did let us know by. They had until July 1st of last year. They met that option. They had just been sort of in the background trying to get all their surveying and where's the site and what's the layout of the buildings are going to be. So that's kind of why it's taken so long to actually get this amendment. So we've got that now. This amendment primarily just adds the 4.8 acres into the lease as a parcel. So we'll have tract A and tract B, but it all forms the parcel. So that's what it is. And what they did not have, and what you didn't get before this, was the actual rent payment schedule. And that's what we handed out today. Of course, as being a state institution of education, they have to get everything passed through the state. They have a tentative approval on that, on our lease. Is that not correct? This is Jeff Farah, for those of you.
We have, the language of the amendment itself,
Mhm.
as we talked to counsel at the State Building Commission, she's good with it. I'm waiting to hear back from the Attorney General's office.
Okay,
I don't expect any problems on the language of the amendment itself.
Okay.
Now, neither of them have looked at the rent payment schedule yet. That was
Okay.
put together by MTSU this morning.
okay,
So,
okay.
but it was slightly reconfigured from what's in the original lease, just to, as my kids would say, or my kids' math teachers would say, just to show our work, show the price per square foot, show the number of square feet.
And the state requested that
That was at the state's
request.
So,
Okay. And
they haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Paul, I think that comes up to what our calculation was,
Yes,
what
it
it would be.
Yes.
Okay. So you'll see that on the third line, that would be added in. We're gonna say that's due of January. That's actually for a full year, the 90,900. And so when the lease right now says the payment's due on July 1st. And so you would see in the middle of this year, then it would include the entire.
Yeah, and even
Parcel.
though January is noted on there, we would have to have the paperwork signed, the lease signed, approved by all the approving entities before we'd be
That can
allowed to
actually-
cut the check. So,
I've reviewed with Ginger and I've looked at it as well to make sure that it still follows through as far as the airport's concerned. She's looked at it from the city's perspective. I'm looking at it from the airport's perspective. And, you know, the wordings and things of that nature seem to follow through with the aeronautical, non-aeronautical, as far as all keeping the divisions up there so that when it comes time to take the next step, if it converts from a lease to a purchase, that those stay properly divided.
If you'll remember, there's a portion that's gonna be along the back toward the airport property that they can't buy, that has to stay. Basically, all the ramps area, that has to remain city aeronautical property. So, and that was in the first lease, and that has not been changed. That's not being changed by this amendment.
So do we need to wait for the state's approval on everything or?
I would ask if the authority is satisfied with this, that they give a recommendation to council to approve this lease amendment contingent upon, of course, the state's approval.
I move that.
All right, so moved,
Second.
seconded, all in
Thank you, Mr.
favor?
Brown.
Aye, okay,
Thank you all.
it passes.
But as soon as we get that, hopefully we'll be able to pass that in February if we can get the state to. Okay,
Great.
thank you all. Thank you, Jeff, for being here.
That's all I see on old business. We'll move to new business. This is new land leases, as in plural.
The plural was, there was another gentleman that was a possibility of a location. And so he's not here. So I put it plural. I should have maybe put it,
Just
I
in
should have put it,
case.
yeah, just in case. A lot of times this happens and then people come, they get all excited and then they really start putting pencil to paper and then all of a sudden they're not as excited.
Okay.
Luckily, we do have one that kept his word that he would be here. If you'd like to address what you're interested in, and then I'll piggyback on what you say.
Okay, so I'm Randy Hooper. I'm running the aviation department for Ingram Industries in Nashville. I'll be retiring in the spring. So, locally, I rent a hangar and I'm one of the pilots for the DC-3. So that's my tie to Shelbyville. Because of my retirement, I'm interested in building a hangar here, a 60 by 60. Been talking a little bit with Paul about that, about location and things. And he put me on the agenda, as far as I know, only to have FaceTime here. So, you know, that's really all I have to tell you, but if you have any questions, please.
The DC-3 will not fit in a 60 by 60.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I do not own a DC.
What would you be flying? Just curious if you could share.
So, I have a Citabria here. I have an RV-8 that's almost complete. Yeah, and I do a lot of airplane stuff, so yeah, that's no guarantee. Those are two airplanes that'll be here.
Cool. Fun airplanes.
Also, with my Citabria, I've started supplementing people like Hawkins with spin training required for CFI certification and tail wheel endorsement.
Great.
Thanks.
We've looked at a couple of different sites and where I've reviewed with with Matt, our consultant, about where we can locate Randy, and what we found, it seems to be that works best for the airport and for even it works in the area that he was looking at is actually to the east of Dr. George's hangar, which will have his doors will not line up with Dweez and Quigley's, but it'll be about in line with Dweez and Quigley's hangars. But his door would be facing the same as the other three hangars that are going there, and would be facing to the south.
So that was one of my main requirements. I want a south facing, but my T hangar up here is facing north and it still has ice in front of it. Everything else is
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And again, he'll follow through if, assuming everything goes as planned, as standard leases that we have. There's no changes to that have been requested. And also, I know we brought up the last time we met in reference to having the proper color. We'll have to do that as well to make sure that he either blends in or matches the
I was
hangers right
thinking
there.
purple. What do you think?
As long as it's not orange.
I don't know.
I didn't say, I didn't say that. I just want you to know that wasn't me.
Well, look forward to seeing
There's a chance it could be blue. He's an MTSU
There's a
guy.
lot of blue here.
Okay. Well, yeah, we look forward to seeing another anchor go up. That's great. Yeah.
All right, anyone else?
I mean, so the other thing is also he was like to reserve the spot as well, just because of the fact that we are, on a first come, first served basis, and
Right.
and the fact that we do have people almost weekly come in asking, and there's really only about three. And I really had originally only had 2 spots left, but in discussions with Randy, we were able to determine there's actually a third, which is the one he would be taking. So there's a couple of spots left to put some until our taxiway can be built. But he's mainly through coming here, giving his attention just basically to reserve that spot.
Yeah, I'd like to not be cut off at the knees. But I can't help a project.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So,
Sure.
and then we'll come back through at a later date and bring the lease to you and things of that nature, that after giving him a chance to go through all the design part and make sure that everything meets his standards and our standards as well. And we all get on the same page, because I don't want to just bring something raw to you and then we end up having to make changes. So it's mainly just to, like you said, that was a perfect way to state it. Get some face time.
What would be your expected timeline? What would you like to see?
I haven't had approval to start yet. But to answer your question more specifically, till I have an approval, I can't really go talk to a contractor.
Right.
So, I don't know what their timeline would be, or, I don't want to waste people's time. Yeah. So I'm really waiting to find out what we can do.
Would you anticipate probably having the lease back within 6 months?
Oh, I would hope less than that. I hope like next meeting. I hope he's on the next agenda would be my hope, that we get everything
Sure.
ironed out and make sure all the details are there, that and the location works with what he's willing to do. And we'll be touching with Matt. Matt's giving me a not to scale kind of drawing to look at. In the area, we had utility issues on both sites that we looked at over there. And the reason why we discussed and worked with the most eastern location is because there's only one utility to work with. And I think we have a workaround, but I want to make sure that Matt and I and Randy get to talk together to make sure that he's okay with it as well, because there is a sewer, our new sewer line is there, and we'll be working around that and having to work with it. And so I want to make sure everybody's on board first. But I think if everything goes as planned, hopefully he'll be a line item on our next agenda, and we'll have something more concrete for you to vote on and to see where everything is.
Awesome. Right. Great. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Yeah. No, vote or motion is necessary for that.
Not yet.
At the moment.
Not
Okay.
yet.
That's all I see on new business. Moving to other business and announcements, shows construction update.
So we have a couple of them. I think we might start with MTSU's construction update, maybe would be the easiest one to start with, because Doug got good news.
Yeah, so in my entire time with MTSU, and I don't really even know how many years it's been going on, we've been talking about MTSU joining the Shelbyville community, and I'm very happy to announce that as of Wednesday, we have done that officially. So we're very happy to have, very happy to have, well, right now we've got 14 planes sitting on the ramp over there. We won't have any less than 12. We might fluctuate one or two here or there. About 85 students and 20 instructors have started
Wow.
flight training.
Excellent.
We had our first flight go out Wednesday morning about 9 o'clock. So we're not 100% in the modular facility yet, but we're close, and we're here and we're doing business. Have to be here and whatever. It's not a whole lot to look at, but if anybody at any time wants to come over and check us out, we'd be happy to host you. So.
Well, that's what I wanted to piggyback on that. I hope to have a field trip for this board in March for your March meeting, when the weather's a little nicer outside, so it's not, more likely if I planned it, it would turn out to be single digits, and I don't want to do that. But in March, there'll also be give them a chance to tie up any loose ends, and then also clean up some things over there, because I think there's still some, on the construction side, there's still some things that they want to clean up and finish up as well.
Yes. And one more, Paul.
Absolutely.
Thing, if I could, for the past 2.5 years, you've been seeing somebody different sitting beside me, and Peyton has left to join the dark side. He's gone to the FAA. He's an aviation safety inspector for the FAA, and this is Sean Logan. He's one of our assistant training managers. He's been planning to work down here for quite some time now, and he'll be kind of running the day-to-day show down here, and then we're backfilling with other managers as we need. But Sean will be coming to the meetings with me, and just wanted to let you meet him and start to get to know him more. So.
Welcome.
Well, great.
So following up on their construction side, there are a few things left besides cleaning up. So some of the cleanup won't happen really till spring because of the wet conditions that are down there right now. They can't really do the final topping of dirt work and things of that nature. So when you drive down through there, it still very much looks like a construction site. However, the fencing's put in, our gate has been relocated finally, that from there by the feed store has been relocated down there. It is still manual because they are pouring footings and running electricity tomorrow to have the actuators working. And we still have a couple of little parts and pieces that were damaged in earlier in the year. And so not earlier in the year, the latter part of last year, I guess was the way to say it, since this year is only a few weeks long, that we need to get some repairs done on it before it'll be fully functional, but that'll be, shouldn't be long. Then there's also the fence that is going to be installed, a different type of fence. It won't be the large chain link fence like you see now out there, which really looks great when you drive by. It cleans it up tremendously out there. But there'll be a cattle fence put back up that was similar to the one, but yet new, and in a different location to match up with the feed store. That was one of the items during the purchase process. For some reason, he really focused on it. He brought it up in emails. He brought it up as part of the closing documents, everything, to make sure that we replaced that fence. Of course, it was also the fence that sort of stirred the pot and allowed us to move things through a lot faster too. So I'm happy that they'll be putting that fence in, but that'll be a cattle fence will be the last thing as far as that part is concerned. They have, their gate has been installed along with the fencing. So that has been, MTSU has I assume you put your lock on there,
Yes, sir.
on that gate. So that gate's closed. We don't really need access to it because we have so many other accesses to the ramp. So that gate is only there. It's a manual gate and only there for in case they need to get big pieces of equipment in there for some reason, or eventually, if there's ever deliveries for the main campus when it's built, they'll have access that way for backdoor deliveries. But other than that, it's all blocked off. The students have to go through their terminal building there or their modular buildings to be able to have access to the ramp. Nobody can walk from the parking lot. Parking lot's lit. The lights are fully functional, so it's nice down there. So they're safe for their night operations. They're operating from 8 to 8 currently. So they actually are leaving after we do, but since now the gate's been relocated and things like that, there's no issues with our existing tenants and things like that. They don't have to go through any of our secure areas. They're all going through the MTSU secure area to be able to come and go. So that all is working out. And as mentioned in some of our other meetings, they've done a lot of legwork ahead of time to make sure things seem to be going smoothly. Now, I'm sure as was pointed out, when you actually switch from paper to ground, it might be a little different. So some of the things over the next few weeks will be figured out in the next few months. So if there is anything that you hear, anything out there that we need to address, please let us know. And MTSU is very welcoming to adjust or move anything that needs to be done. One other thing I failed to mention, the light fixtures for the taxiway itself they're still on the to-do list. Basically, the light manufacturer bought all his competition, so he's not in any hurry to do it. And the fact that they only needed to buy like 6 lights or so, they're not in any hurry because they only seem to pay attention when you're wanting to give them a few $1 million. And so that's one thing that needs to be finished up. The trenches are there, so it's still when you taxi by, it looks like construction because there's dirt mounded up, and that's mainly just waiting for the light fixtures to go in, and then they can clean that up and then seed and straw back in the spring, along with all the other seed and straw that'll be done around the area to clean it up.
You just get the fuel truck down there, or is that MTSU's people to do that, or?
Of course, we have 3 fuel trucks in Murfreesboro. The one we want to bring down here has been our most reliable until we were ready to move it.
Of course.
So, it should be repaired today. So hopefully by Monday, we're going to have a fuel truck down here. And then we'll kind of talk to Paul about it. At least for now, hopefully this will work. Having that truck service once a day in the evening. So,
Okay.
So kind of our current game plan, we'll see how this works, but our current game plan is to, at our close of business, right before as part of our closing procedures, top their truck off. That way they can finish they can still receive, and if they need to top stuff off when stuff comes back in, when they receive late shifts, or the fact that whenever they start, if they need to start early, they're ready to go. That'll keep their truck topped off. It seems based on current numbers, that'll keep them fully functional for the day, and we won't have to do any fueling during the daytime, but that's always still an option too. But it allows us, we know that our staff is usually kind of quiet about that time, so it'll be a perfect time to hook them up to our fuel farm and get them topped off with whatever needs to be done. And then they'll have their staff will be completely ready to start their days or wrap up their days, whichever way they need to do it.
When does campus construction projected to start?
That would be.
no, I'll let you answer.
Looking at probably second quarter this year. So kind of, late spring, something like that.
Okay. And then 2 years, 18 months, 3 years, what?
Oh gosh, I gotta look back to that. I want to say it's somewhere around
April?
2 years to completion for this space.
Should be substantial completion in spring, April-ish of 27. Our
Okay.
plan would be to move in for the fall semester.
Got it.
And that's phase 1.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're calling this, as we are now, phase 0. And then there's phase 1 is the first step. And then, then if you've seen some of the drawings,
Right.
there's some shaded out buildings that are multiple phases. And they're already, shaking hands and kissing babies with the state government to get more funding. So I'm sure MTSU will be on the agenda for quite a few years to continue those multiple phases that they have in the process.
I imagine they'll just become a regular agenda.
Oh, on our agenda
Just
too.
stay, just
I'm just
stay
saying
on the agenda.
I'm staying on the state agenda, but on our agenda, yes, we'll definitely continue to have them on here, just so that if nothing else, so we can keep up a line of communication. I mean, it's been, so far, it's really worked out well, but we want to make sure that we can keep that communication so that if there are any concerns or anything like that, or any attaboys, whichever, we can make sure that stays open and can be addressed instead of waiting till something catastrophic happens that we need to address it at that time. As I've told many people throughout this process, I was in Murfreesboro before the city even took over the airport, and it was still being run by International Flight School and different. And then before MTSU started their own training, when I was in MTSU, we had to go elsewhere for our training, and they didn't have their own airplanes. I've watched that whole process. I've watched it all, not only from a personal perspective, but professional perspective too. And so we are learning from the mistakes that were done in Murfreesboro. And so we'll make sure we address things ahead of time and not let things go and get out of hand.
For the utility issues, or is that in the next update?
That's in the next update. We're going to switch over to Matt for those.
Good segue.
Yes, perfect.
All right, water.
Perfect.
Well, yeah, I guess let's just go ahead. I know there's several projects that we have either kind of under contract for design or, waiting something to be signed, but yeah, the water line, I guess, is probably the biggest, most attention grabbing one of all. We are currently working in the design on that. I guess, yeah, we probably haven't spoken since we went before Bedford County Utility District, or haven't spoken to the board here, but they approved our design. We actually did make a small modification of it to remove some of the lines, so it's less of a burden on the city for some additional work. We took a significant portion of line out. So design's ongoing with that. I had a discussion with our water engineers who are working on that right now. Schedule wise, we're not as optimistic as end of February. I've been brainstorming on a few things about how we can potentially speed that up. I think we maybe have an extra submittal in there that we could try to eliminate, and just, instead of bringing it to 50% design, stopping, letting everyone comment, let's just push it all the way to just before bid set, 90% plan. My big concern is Bedford County and their review time, because I do think, they want to review it. That was part of their request, but it's not an overly complicated design. I think we can give them something at a unofficial 50% and just keep working towards our end. Them come back with any comments they have, because I don't think it would drastically change what we're going to be putting together. So.
Just to jump on that a little bit, we're overbuilding their specifications. We're building our specifications. Details are being built to Shelbyville Power's specifications, which surpass theirs. It's mainly location would be the only thing that would be a concern from theirs, and some of the cleanouts that they need. But even our cleanouts, we're using the details from Shelbyville Power and not Bedford County. It just could be the location of those cleanouts or things of that nature that we do.
But say, and another thing, potential time saving, we're looking to have to align this to go before city council with bids for approval for construction. Would it be possible to go in with, say, a 90% or more engineer's estimate? And if we come in under that, it would be approved? Or just because trying to figure out how to get to end of design bidding and just line that all together. Because if you miss a date, you're stuck waiting a month.
How big a tank is it?
I'm sorry?
How big a tank? How many gallons?
We're not doing any tank.
You're not doing any.
No. This is just underground water line infrastructure, hydrants, valves, that sort of stuff. NTSU
will do the
NTSU is
tank.
doing above ground tanks for fire storage. But that's a separate project.
Separate.
Yes.
They're okay with that? Middle is?
Yes.
They're good with the water tank.
Well, I mean, they don't want to, but they realize that's
Yeah.
that's
I know.
what they have to do. There's just not enough water pressure up this way.
We are, as part of this project, connecting the water in front of MTSU from our fire hydrant to their fire hydrant and connecting that, which some are estimating that will increase the pressure, but still not enough to address their demands on campus for the fire suppression.
And that was one of the things we were trying to get an answer out of Bedford County Utility District on flows because, you know, we had two dead ends, one to the south, one to the north. What happens when you connect that? You know, that you can run a theoretical, but they were very reluctant to give us anything. And I think it's kind of in their comments too, where they said, well, we don't do fire protection.
Yes.
You know, so I think they either didn't have enough information or were just very reluctant to share what would happen if there's any modeling of all that connected, because that could potentially affect whether or not tanks were needed, but we were never able to get the information. I think the pressures were too low between the north and the south hydrant anyway. It probably would have been borderline to get what we needed. But
I'm not a water expert, okay? Don't claim to be. But you know, BCUD has a real big water tank out on 41A. And if we, with airplanes flying around, I realize you don't tank, but if you put a tank over here somewhere and BCUD just gives us water, sells us water at whatever pressure they do, and you've got a full big water tank that's up, would that give us the pressure and give us the ability to have water for anything else that's developing on this end of the county where it may be city, but it's under BCUD's jurisdiction?
They will not keep the tank full.
What?
They will not keep the tank full.
There is a tank over here by Wawa distribution,
Oh, there is?
but they won't keep
They
it.
will not keep it full. We can't force it.
The T-Dex goes up right over there.
Been exploring for a long time. I
I'm
know.
sorry. I didn't
No,
call you up.
no.
I apologize for wasting everybody's time. I just,
No, it's a
You
good
think like
question.
everybody else.
well, I know, I've been through this a lot as
Exactly.
well on other things
Yeah.
that is just,
Sir,
okay, got it.
we can stir the pot quite a bit. Trust me.
Okay.
Let's try to apply some common sense.
You want to follow up with the other, like all the other construction projects and
Yeah.
timelines that we've sort of hit on some of those.
yeah, absolutely. So, as part of the $6 billion projects, as we've been referring to them, the grant, congressional grant that we got. So the taxiway project, that one's kind of been sitting at 90%. What we're doing is the run-up pad up on the north end of the, taxiway. We are working on the design for that right now. Those two projects are going to merge into one bid package because it's all flat work, all paving. It would make sense to have those bid out separately. So that's ongoing, looking for a April bid date on that. We have so corporate hangar, that was another one in that $6 million. That's one that's going to be a little delayed because we're going to do the site work for it as part of the taxiway because it's adjacent right there. Hey, equipment's out there. Let's do that while we're there. But as far as the actual hangar itself, that will be a separate design, slab on the building and apron and all. So, that one's going to come after the taxiway is completed. So we're about to kick off design on that one. So we can have that package ready to bid once we're getting close to completion of the taxiway. Terminal, Paul, I probably need to talk to you a little bit about this one and lining some of that work up, because I know you were working with a different firm on the design for that. But that's another one. If they're, I think that's about ready to go for.
It was environmental was the only thing that was outstanding. And then the square- and the
Yeah,
square-
yeah,
and the
no,
square
that's another
footage.
thing. We're still waiting on environmental to come back from. Normally, we go through TDOT and it's not terribly long through them. But because this special status of this grant. It had to go through the FAA. So they have it. Unfortunately, over holidays and not much gets done. So we're still knocking on the door with them, asking them when we're getting updates on it. I think I spoke with them last week before. But they've not given me a timeline. It's hard to get a solid answer on one. But we're still proceeding with design. There's none of these projects are anything that's disturbing wetland or doing anything critical. We're already, we're working in developed areas, ground that's already been touched, ground that's maintained is mowed. So it's not like we're having to tear down a bunch of trees that may have bad populations or something. So we're continuing with our design on all of those. And then we also have the Shade Ports project that Paul spoke with you. I think we just need to have a contract in place, but that's another one yet in the hopper.
We're waiting on bipartisan infrastructure money for
Yeah.
that. So that is just a long drawn out process
That's
to the point that
Like 6 months from when you request the money that they will turn around and issue the grant. So
that is one of the ones that there's a possibility that if we can get stuff taken care of, just so we don't miss the construction season because of it, that we might be asking for reimbursement through that grant versus working it through during construction. The other thing that, before I forget, that jumps onto this a little bit, when you said approval, one of the things that was finally approved through FAA was on our airport layout plan, the forecasting. So we're able to get the airport layout plan moving again because FAA's released all the information and blessed it all. Also, and I'll let you address the air traffic control tower. Don't forget that one. But what affects the board on the ALP, for my previous life, I did those and always involved the governing bodies as much as possible to offer what they see, not only for where they think the community is going to develop, but what was be recommended not only from the manager's perspective, but also from their boards or city's perspective of what development needs to be done on the airport. So if there's some ideas of things that you might see, things that we would like to see over the next 10 to 20 years, this airport layout plan, most airport layout plans for general aviation airports are 20-year plans. This one is actually going to be a little shorter because once the tower gets built and a few other things, we've already got it in the plan to update our airport layout plan again because MTSU's new footprint will fall within that 10-year time frame. Though a lot of other things will happen and it will have happened over that 10 years. And unlike other general aviation airports, ours is growing way fast compared to others. So we've had to shorten that time frame. So almost look at it from a 10-year perspective of things that the board would like to see or address. There's one gentleman that was trying to get on the agenda. Charles tried to be on our agenda for today. Unfortunately, it was too late to get on the agenda because he is busting at the seams and he'll be glad to tell you about it. Just ask him. And he's wanting to know what the airport's going to do to fix that. I'll leave it there, but that's part of planning as well. How can we expand that area if possible? Or is it something that the city wants to, or the board would like to look at expanding that area, or do we want to focus elsewhere? Because we got demands coming from multiple directions. We have them from individuals. We have demands coming from other companies that would like to locate here. We have existing companies that would like to expand. So where do we want to put that focus? So that's something that maybe you could be thinking about, maybe looking around, because that will at some point in time in the next few months be on your agenda as to, it could be as simple as Matt brings out, and maybe even, or through one of the other planners that they have too, our current layout, and we actually get pins and circle and draw and say, hey, this is what we would recommend. Why this doesn't make sense. Or there could be some ideas that are already thrown out there of what the future design was and say, yeah, we would like to see something else. But something, just think about it. Think about what you would see, what you think the community needs as a whole. This is where you get to get your crystal ball out and see what's going to happen, how things work. Because I can tell you, when when I worked with the city in 2008, we never thought MTSU was going to be here. That never came up. And also we got property that I was told at the time from the airport manager's perspective is that we'll never be able to buy that property because we don't get along with that guy. But yet but now we have that property. So there's all kinds of things in other property. I know that previously it was a concern when the last one was done about showing property on airport layout plans because we wanted to play nice with the neighbors. The neighbors thought that we were going to get ready to go condemn. Well, Ginger can tell you that's not the case anymore, that the city's not going to go out and try to condemn the property and take it away from you just because the airport maybe might want to use it in the future. But we do want to make sure it shows so that if something were to happen, we can have the chance to go get it. We can't get funding for something if it's not shown in the planning process. But there's always that has to be taken into consideration. And unfortunately, the board and the city has to take that in consideration of if you show something in a planning document, everybody just assumes it's going to happen. So how, if you're looking at taking somebody's property or wanting somebody's property, there's a difference between want and take. But unfortunately, some neighbors don't look at it that way.
And we're working on, speaking with our planners about some of the proposed, what we're putting on our drawing and, what we think we might see here, apron expansion here, hangers, this, whatever. So those drawings, I don't know if they're actively being worked on, but we are getting prepped to start going into that process and putting those drawings together. And I'll talk with him as far as timing. I'd be more than happy to, we start getting those drawings put together, bring them here to the meeting or, give a bunch to Paul and let him hand them out to you as, time permits, but we'll certainly get something put together for everyone to look at.
Air traffic control.
Yep. And then the air traffic control tower. So the forecast that we had been waiting for forever from the FAA is a big component of the federal control tower program. Now that we have that forecast, we are working on getting contracted right now with a sub-consultant who's done this sort of work before, who's been through this process. So they are going to work on doing the application for us as well. When I say us, the airport, the application, and then also doing a benefit cost analysis, which is all part of the steps to get into this federal contract tower program. So once those are in, it'll go to the FAA. The FAA will look at everything. They'll make their decision on, yep, makes sense that you're here, which I feel we have the numbers and is with as fine a tooth comb as they went through that forecast, there shouldn't be questions on, whether or not this is right, this is wrong, whatever. So I feel pretty confident about our numbers going into that.
I can also tell you that one of our approaches, they've already FAA's reached out to us about changing one of our missed approaches to the north because of, and they seem to think it's going to take into effect October of 25 because of the expansion of Nashville.
Yeah.
So the next step with Nashville is going to what's the Class B airspace, which enlarges the airspace, which is going to push Smyrna, Murfreesboro, all south. All the air traffic of general aviation is going to be pushed south because training is going to be limited in that area, which in turn is going to put even more pressure on Memphis Center. And of course, the expansion of Nashville approach and things like that will expand out. So I can tell you that the controllers in this area are anxious for us to get moving on the tower. So that will move. There's no way, well, it'll go through the approval process quickly, but it's still, we can't, 5 years is 5. They said there's no, it's going to be, it is what it is. There's no, mainly because facilities versus air the procedures guys, they don't talk to each other. You got all the silos in FAA and they don't talk to each other. And so there is that process, but I can tell you that Nashville is still moving forwards and will be affecting airports. And so they are anxiously waiting for surrounding airports to start stepping up. And so we're moving. And unfortunately, it just takes time. Any questions? I understand that's just quite a bit on there's a lot of stuff that's on paper right now. I can't wait to put a shovel on the ground. Trust me. I am ready. I am so tired of drawing stuff on paper. And I'm ready to see stuff breaking ground.
Oh, which general aviation airports around here have towers? Smyrna,
Smyrna is the only one.
Murfreesboro?
Well, John C. Toon and
June does.
Murfreesboro's been approved, but does not have one.
Does
Yeah,
not have
they,
one.
they're going to look at doing it themselves. We'll see how that moves forward.
So it's really 10, Smyrna,
That's it.
and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are some, there's a tower at Fort Campbell, but it sort of engulfs a little bit of Clarksville, but that's used for military and they do some controlling in that area somewhat. But that's it. And then the rest of them start going out to, there's one in West Tennessee. There's two in West Tennessee.
Jackson.
And then
Jackson.
you got Jackson and Millington are two GA airports that have towers.
Okay.
There's not many in Tennessee.
The projects you described, the $6 million projects and then bipartisan infrastructure projects, are those funds allocated funds? So the change in administration, that money is already there. It's not going to be taken back.
That's correct.
Okay,
And
so we can plan on.
And same thing for the next step of bipartisan infrastructure. That's still, that last little bit it's been funded. It's been approved. I mean, I'm sure there's always a possibility that something could be stopped and pulled back, but it would be very difficult for the federal government to try to stop something like that, try to pull money back. Because there's people that have already spent, just and have committed and have already spent money and are just waiting for the next allocation so they can get that check to get reimbursed. So it would be very, very difficult. It'd almost be a black eye from the federal government to get that to stop that bipartisan money that's already been, they did a lot to announce it and things like that. It's a good question. That's an understandable question. That was, when I was in state government, that was asked almost especially when parties changed.
Yeah.
That was a lot of questions that were asked in state government.
Any other questions? No. Before adjournment, you brought something up that there's possible conflict in our March meeting, Paul. Our March meeting is the 27th, and that's the same week as the Tennessee Aviation's Conference and the NBA schedulers and dispatchers. So
It is.
I don't know whether we need, I mean, we could get a long time to make a change or not make a change, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Tennessee Airports Conference was going to finish on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it was just going to be fun for me.
Oh,
That wasn't going to really affect you guys. I
Okay.
didn't think, except for you.
yeah, no, I'll be gone and I'll be at S&D.
Right.
Um,
But that's up to you as your chairman. You have that option if you want to touch base with our city quarter there and see about changing. She is the keeper of the master calendar.
Would you like to move it up a week?
I mean, it would be, then it doesn't conflict with anything. And then Paul's not conflicted about getting back from the Tennessee one and anything that might come out of that. And I'll still be in town, haven't gone for S&D. So,
Move
If
to
that's-
March the 20th.
yeah, if
I
that works for everyone
that's
else.
fine with me if that works with y'all.
It works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Do we need a
Anything?
motion or anything for that or?
Have you got something planned?
No.
Okay.
Are you,
Once you that, I forgot to talk to you about was officers.
oh, well, we'll have to do it.
I understand that. but
Yeah.
I mean. before I
You know
forget.
what? I never remember that in January. I've got a couple of boards. I'll do that. Next month, what he's talking about is next month, we'll have to do the officers. Appointments, elections, whatever they're called. We usually do that in January and I always
Oh.
forget.
Yeah.
So we'll take care of that next month. But yeah, if you want to make a motion to move the March meeting,
Can I do that as?
yeah.
Okay,
you can
well,
make-
then I'll make a motion that we move the March meeting 1 week earlier, so it would be the 20th.
Second. Okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion passes.
Just being on record, the 27th of February is the next meeting.
Yes, I believe that's
I will
right.
be in California, so I will not be here
Okay.
if it hasn't all burned down.
Yeah. All right, well,
Hey, Paul, is Aviation Day date set yet?
There's not going to be one this year. Have too many conflicts with some personal things that I've got going on. I have, just for your information, I have a daughter getting married. I have a daughter-in-law and son that are getting ready to have a baby that very next day. And then my youngest graduates from college.
Wow.
So it all happens within that, I don't know why they decided to schedule the same time.
It was not.
Exactly. They didn't check with me
Not
on
do a good
any
job.
of that.
They
for
didn't put
aviation
that with
day.
the board. I don't remember the motion.
I did not remember motion on that. either.
But trust me, first grandbaby and daughter's getting married sort of bumped the,
Aviation. day.
bump aviation day, and I haven't been able to make that work. So, we'll
You're
start working.
young, lucky if anybody shows up at graduation with all that.
Trust me, she's pointed that out more than a few times. That graduating from college doesn't line up too well with the other things. But so we'll try to, I don't know that we'll try to move it to the fall. We were just moved it back to the spring because of so many conflicts in the fall.
Yeah, a lot
So,
of fall festivals.
Yeah, small festivals and conflicts with all kinds of different things. So it could be that we might have to pull a Smyrna at this time and work on something bigger and better to get it started back the following year.
Okay, well, hearing nothing else, call this meeting adjourned.
Good job.
I was with your team meeting.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah, I never looked at the, or even the intermediate result.
Have safe journey.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Thanks. Newport Beach, Corona. But it's about 50 miles from those fires.
From August when you.
I'll take your case.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
We just go, so in the end, everything was.
Yes.
Huh?
Eric.
Congratulations.
Where do you go?
Wow. Yeah.
I've got it on my calendar.
I have a dog.
Okay, let me do this.
And I don't. That's what my plan is. It's just to have you there.
Anything you've said.
So you have a question. Even to come back.
Yeah, I've got it on, I've got both of them on my calendar.